have two illustrious colleagues here on my left and right.
Where?
And I also have David and Mark. All three of us have fished the ILTT a number of times, and actually all three of us have won the ILTT several times. So we think we have at least something to say. And
it might be lies, but we have something to say.
And it will take us at least 5 minutes to impart all our knowledge combined. We assume you're all here to hear about the ILTT and maybe hear some comments about light tackle fishing, so we will jump right in. First, just a couple of brief comments about the International Light Tackle Tournament, here and after referred to as the ILTT. It has a 50-year history. It was started back, somebody count back 50 years.
1963. 1963 was the first one.
Yeah, thank you. And it used to attract a large number of people, and over the years it became sort of synonymous with clubs from Virginia, from Trinidad and Tobago, from the Bahamas, and a number of those continue to come for quite a few years. So it was an international tournament and involved some reciprocation where anglers from Bermuda would go and fish in light tackle tournaments in Key West and elsewhere. It was also an attraction for some celebrities over the years. Ernest Borgnine, Jonathan Winters, crazy man Jonathan Winters, comedian, used to come and fish in it and used to MC the prize presentations. Kurt Gowdy from NBC and this is a football player, Swan. Thank you, Lynn Swan. Fished it. They would feature them on some of the network sports shows, and it was quite a good boost for Bermuda. It was originally started out of what was called then the Trade Development Board, which is now the Bermuda Tourism Authority. So it was very definitely organized in the early days as a way of bringing visitors to Bermuda and experience the good fishing that we have here. It is a qualifying event for the Offshore World Championships, formerly called the IGFA Offshore World Championships. Those tournaments are quite impressive. 65 teams from around the world fishing these days in Costa Rica, mainly for sailfish, but also other forms of billfish. The sailfish is their mainstay. And you can qualify to fish in that tournament. The only way you can get into that tournament is to win a qualifying tournament somewhere in the world. And the ILTT is one of those tournaments. So let me quickly introduce, on my left, Mark Hennenberger from Bermuda Anglers Club. I'm David Skinner, also from Bermuda Anglers Club, but neutral. I'm Switzerland in this discussion. And David De Silva from Seahorse Anglers. Sadly, our third panelist from Blue Water suffered an injury and was unable to make it, but we'll try and fill in as best we can. So, just to start off with a pretty general question to ask both David and Mark about your prior experience with the ILTT. Maybe we'll start with you, David.
Fished for the first time in 2005, and that was the best year because we actually won it. Other than that, we've been close, but it's a challenging tournament. It's a good tournament, a lot of good people in there, like David said. And the 4-day tournament was a bit taxing. First day, it was great. Second day, you couldn't wait for the third day because it was an off day, and the third day, you couldn't wait for the final day, especially if it was rough. But I think that the 2-day format that they're trying now is going to hopefully bring out more people because it's a weekend, it's a 2-day tournament, and you don't have to take time off work. And I wish them all the luck with it because it is a great tournament. Now, once you fish it once, I think you'll get the itch and you'll fish it again, as many of us have. I would fish it this year, hopefully, if I can. And hopefully I'd like to do good and actually win it again. So I'll turn it over to Mark.
I thought you were going to say once you fish it once, you're hooked, but that would be too much of a plan.
I started fishing the ILTT in 2009 was the first one. Fortunate enough fishing with the same team, including this year. We were able to win it in 2010, and then we won it again in 2012. The ILTT is historically a very strong tournament for camaraderie. The stories that you get on the dock are bar none. You get to talk to people that you don't normally get to talk to. You get the fishing stories, you get some of the lies, some of the fun stuff. It really is a great organization to come in and play for a couple of days. As David said, when the format was at a 4-day tournament, it got taxing. You fished for 2 days hard, you had a day off to rebuild your gear, because 9 times out of 10 you had to rebuild your gear, which meant respooling all 4 or 5 rods that you had, redoing all your hook sets and everything. We then went down to a 3-day tournament, which made it easier, but still 3 days of hard fishing. There's no weather committee, so if it was blowing 25, it was at your peril. If you wanted to go out and catch fish, you went out. This year, with 2 days fishing on a weekend, hopefully we'll get a couple more teams out. And as David said, it's a qualifying tournament. I've been down to Cabo fishing the World Championships, been down to Costa Rica fishing the World Championships. And when you get down amongst those anglers, you really get the feeling of how insignificant the information that you have for fishing that type of fisheries. We fish wahoo, tuna, dolphin here. When you get down there, you take everything that you've learned over the last 30 years plus and throw it out the window. What was our biggest saying down there?
Don't set the hook! There you go, there you go, there you go.
Sancucho? Sancucho. Sancucho down in Costa Rica means basically you piss the fish away. And fishing sailfish is very easy to do. If you get the chance to go down there and fish, do not put your rod in the rod holder. You will not catch fish. You need to keep the line in your hand, you need to thumb it the whole time, and after 8 hours on the water, your arm gets sore. And that's not just from fighting fish, that's from holding the rod up in the air for 8 hours. But it's a great tournament to fish as a qualifying. It's an even greater tournament to get down there and be able to be amongst the rest of the best of the world.
Okay, so how many people here, just by a show of hands, have fished 12-pound test and know what that's all about? Okay, so the few people who would like to know a little bit more about it. David, over to you again. What's it like from very starters? What's it like fishing 12-pound test?
Well, it's definitely different if you're not used to it, because like I was told, I think the first time that I fished it by the great Russell Young, after I crapped away the first fish that I hooked in the day, and he kind of couldn't scream much louder. We're not fishing 130, we're fishing 12. And you will learn that very quickly, because when that fish wants to go, it's going to go. It's a waiting game. You can put a little pressure you want on it, but if he comes up to the boat and just your luck, somebody misses him at the gaff, he does not want to come near the boat anymore. And the first cast that I have fished in the morning on a spinner with a little popper, he hit the water, and that was I think it was a 47-pound tuna. That was an hour and 45 minutes. I don't know how many times he stripped the reel down to half a dozen turns, front of the boat, back of the boat, sides up and down, got that fish in, and the very next cast, another one took it, and that was another hour and probably about the same. So if you think you're not going to get tired with 12, believe me, you will. If you hold anything for an hour or more, you will get tired. And if you have one of those good days where we have had in that tournament, where you come in and you got 20, 25 tuna, or 20 or whatever wahoo, plus everything else that you catch, you're looking forward to your bed that night. So don't think you can be a weightlifter, you can be as big as you want. Somebody gives you a piece of 12, I will guarantee you by the end of the day, you'll be happy when that boat starts and comes back.
Well, that's got everybody excited, I'm sure. So, all right, so it is a challenge. You got to let the fish run. You can't horse them. You can't try and muscle the fish to the boat. But Mark, what about some of the specifics? Like, how do you set up your rig? You can talk about knots, rigs, drags, all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of different ideas of how you set your rigs up. Most people will fish with a 12, and then you'll connect a wind-on leader onto it. IGFA rules, 20 feet of a wind-on leader, including your hook set, is where you need to be. The big problem when you're fishing 12 is your leaders that you're using. You can range from kind of a 30-pound leader, 40-pound leader, 50-pound leader. When you're fishing a 60 to 80-pound tuna for 3.5 hours, a 50-pound leader wears out. You'll be out there fishing and you'll have fluorocarbon out there, and that fish won't touch the line all day long. You change to 50-pound mono, you get eaten the first time. The big thing about your rigs is your knots. A lot of people have different ideas of what knots to use for your connections. I'll leave that up to you to research and figure out what you like best. Dave and I really like to use a spider hitch as our 12-pound knot. We put our heavier wind-ons on top of that. But if you're not proficient in tying your knots, you're not going to catch fish. So you need to practice those. When someone tells you and you're reading your YouTubes or whatever, and they tell you to put spit on the line when you're tying your knots, believe me, put spit on your line. Will actually cut an anchor line. So you got to be careful when you're fishing and you've got 2 or 3 hookups on, that you make sure that your lines are clear from your other anglers, because you will cut the other angler off very easily with 12-pound test. Your line, you go out, this is a 2-day tournament. If you get a good fish on and you land him, that line has got stretch to it now. So you're not fishing with 12-pound test anymore. You might be fishing with 10, you might be fishing with 8, you might be fishing with 6, depending on if you bumped into something in the chunk. Whenever you're putting your lines out, you got to make sure, because you're pulling the line out and setting it, unless you're trolling, obviously. But when you're pulling your line out and setting it, you need to be checking your line all the time. You come across one little burr, bring your line back in, because that one little burr can stay there for 2 hours on a fish. That one little burr will break you off at the boat when you go try to put a little extra pressure on the fish. So there's finesse, patience, a lot of patience. My longest fight on 12-pound test has been 3 hours and 45 minutes. I had the fish to the boat within 20 feet of gaffing it, and with the fish on that long with the circle hook at the side of its gill plate, put about a 3-inch hole in the side of that fish. And he had that one little effort of shaking his head, and that hook just about took my ear off and gave me another ear piercing. And the fish went away. So just because you've got him in sight doesn't mean you got him. You got to keep the pressure on. You got to make sure that you're in control of the fish all the time.
So I might like to add a few comments about how you actually catch the fish as opposed to how you lose them. One of the things that everybody seems to want to know is, like, how can you possibly catch a 50, 60-pound tuna on a line that is supposed to break at 12 pounds? The answer is, in case people don't know, is in setting the drag on your reel. The drag obviously is the resistance, and what we generally do is set the drag at somewhere between, well, according to the textbooks, 25% to a third of the line's rated breaking strength, so 3 to 4 pounds of pressure. How do you do that? Well, in the morning when we go out, Mark and I and Kip have fished together, when we're in the boat on the way out, the first thing we're doing is one guy has the rod, the other guy has a scale, and you're pulling line off the reel and checking the how much pressure is on that line as it comes off the reel when the reel is in strike setting. And if it's more than what you want, obviously you reduce it. We tend to fish maybe a little bit more aggressively at maybe 5, sometimes 6 pounds of pressure at the strike. You come to get to know what's comfortable for you and when to back it off a bit. But as long as, theoretically, as long as you set the drag at less than half of the line's rated breaking strength, you should not break a fish off, unless you get some other interference, like a burr or something like that, that Mark was talking about. But you will have to let the fish run for a while, depending on how aggressive the fish is, and then it's really down to a question of technique. So the fun part is trying to master this technique and bring a fish to the boat with what some people call thread. And when you do get a big fish to the boat on 12-pound test, it's quite an accomplishment. Want to say something else?
If I can just follow up on that comment about your drag sets. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a scientist, but I know how reels work. Obviously, when you start off with a spool of line that big, and if you're setting it off at 4 pounds, by the time that reel gets down to that big, you've taken that 4-pound drag and you've increased it to about 8 pounds of drag. So keeping that in mind, that when you've got a fish and they're doing a long run, the more that fish is out there, you've got to consciously think, I've got to back the drag off because I'm putting more and more pressure on that fish because the reel is getting smaller and smaller. The drag brakes are getting hotter and tighter. What happens is sometimes the fish will keep running. You look like you're going to be spooled. He's going to run out. Once you've done it for a while, you try to figure out, okay, if I back the drag off completely, and I'm just thumbing it, so I've got just barely enough pressure for that line to not backlash, that fish will sometimes, because the pressure's been eased off of him, will stop. He'll turn, he'll have a second look. At that point, you can add more drag to it, get you back up to your 2, 4, 8 pounds or 6 pounds of drag to get the fish back in again. So it really is, you got to pay attention the whole time. It's not just hooking the fish, let him run and let him play his game. You really got to be thinking about it all the time. Drag is the most important thing, especially with 12-pound tests.
And we do respect gender equality, so we don't let him or her run too long. I wanted to ask David to talk a little bit about tactics. What happens if it's slow? Do you go out and you just target one species? What happens if things slow up, or what do you do in terms of maximizing the points from a light tackle tournament like this?
Okay, you try to figure out what's going on. Usually your charter captains will know what's going on because they're out there all the time. They will tell you, where the tuna are, or is it worth going for tuna, is it worth going for wahoo? Sometimes they give you the choice. Usually, first thing in the morning, early, we'll do a little troll. What I like to do is little rapallas, some small value, and if you rack up some points, getting a couple wahoo or getting a couple small tuna, usually it kind of dies off when the sun starts coming up, and then you switch to going chumming, see what's going on. Usually, if you've got a 3-man, 4-man team, one guy will try to do release for the point system. Throw in little poppers, little jigs, get little black fins, yellow fins. Sometimes you get skipjacks, and sometimes you even get a fish that will wade, which is always good. And if things slow up, then it's usually up to the team to try different things. I've seen times we even go up on Argus, go right up on the tower, and you're fishing for bonitas, which you get some pretty good sized ones. I find that they're fairly easy to get on 12, as long as there's no sharks or big barracudas around. But there's a lot of different things that you can try to do, and that's where if you're got a charter boat, that's where your captain comes in, or if you got knowledgeable guys on your team, there's always something that you can try. Or you just follow the crowd, see what they're doing. Sometimes you'll see 20 boats in one area, so you fish are there, we'll go over there. Or sometimes you might take a chance to say, let's go to the other side, in which case if the fish show up, you got everything to yourself, which you're happy, until everybody sees you able to catch the fish, and then you got 19 other boats on top of you. But you don't want to get stuck with one thing all day and not catch anything. That's one good thing. And some people actually do that. Say that the fish will show up. The fish will show up. When you're fishing with a limited amount of time, you want to get points. You want to get fish. So my rule of thumb is if you're doing something for an hour and nothing shows up, you got to talk to your teammates and try something, because the day goes by very fast when you're out there. I think fishing is what, from 8:30 till 3? 3, yeah. So you don't have a lot of time.
Line's in at 8.
Pardon me?
8. 8 to 3?
8 to 3.
Neil's been at 8.
You want to add anything to that, Mark? So the gist of it is, when things aren't going right, go left. I'll tell you a quick story of one year fishing in ILTT. We thought going out, and this was when it was a 4-day tournament, we thought we were going looking for tunas, and we did go out and target tunas. Got a couple of nice ones the first day. The second day we went out, and there was really nothing much happening. We got on a mooring, we had a nice tide going, really current, but started chumming. All we could seem to scare up was a couple of small tunas, so we decided we're going to just completely change it up. We had and David mentioned trolling with rappellers. We went trolling with these little rappellers about that big, and we caught 10 wahoo. So we said, that kind of tells us that the wahoo are around and not the tunas. So we decided we had a rest day, and the following day we went for more wahoo. We had a boat engine break down, so that messed that day up. But on the Friday, we just went straight out and looked for live bait, and went live baiting, and we caught 21 wahoo and won the tournament. So the key is, I mean, that just reinforces the idea that the strategy has to be flexible enough to say, what we thought we were going to be doing isn't working, so do something else. You can't wait around all day if what you thought was going to happen doesn't. So just maybe a couple of quick final comments, and then we'll open it up for any questions. What about, what's life like on the boat, Mark? Present company excluded.
I'm glad you clarified that. Fishing with David Skinner is an experience in itself. You know, you get up 5 o'clock in the morning, as most of us do, to go out fishing. You're sitting there, and if you're chumming or drifting, mainly, a lot of times we'll be out drifting, somebody gets hooked up into a nice fish. The next thing you know, you're out in your 300 fathoms of water, and there aren't any fish around. So you're sitting there and you're waiting for your teammate to get that fish in, and you're praying like hell that he's going to get that fish in because it's points on the board, and you want to get back to the chumming line again. So team support is major. You may not think so, as you're out there and you're trying to get the individual high rod. You want to win as a team, but it really comes down to being behind your teammates when they have a bad day. Not making the sets, coaching them back into it, getting them back into the game. When you're having a really good day, try to back off a little bit, let them try to get in on it. It's, like I said earlier, it's camaraderie. It's, when you're out there, to me, my peaceful place in the world is out there. That's where I'm happy.
Just like Mark said, I mean, it's a great to have a bunch of guys out there that you can, some guys, you can rib each other and we can joke and we can have a good time. I like fishing. I've always fished all my life, and I don't take it too seriously, because I think that if you do take it too seriously, if you lose a fish, it doesn't make sense jumping up and down, throwing rods overboard. And, to me, it doesn't do that. I don't know what some people would, it doesn't do it for me. I have enough rods so I can throw a couple overboard, but I don't, I've never done it. I think if you go out there with the mindset, you're going to go out there and have fun no matter what happens. And if you win, it's just a bonus. And it's nothing, all day, you get along good, you come back to the dock, you joke around, you have a couple drinks, and you look forward to the next day. And if you win, then you look forward to going to Cabo or wherever it is now, and you have a great time. And that's the whole thing. You gotta go and have fun. Don't take it too seriously. So.
Wait, one final question for you.
Yeah.
Talk about, what's the tuna dance? Tuna tango? You got multiple hookups.
Oh, well, had that. We were, one time it was 3 of us hooked up. I think it was Fiona, myself, and I can't remember who the other one was, but 3 of us were hooked up. And with the line that we used, that black line, you can't see nothing. And all 3 of us together, and we were on Playmate. And if anybody's fished with Kevin, you know, he's a great guy. Don't let stress doesn't bother him a bit. And we're all there, and all 3 of us are together, and you go under, you go over, and we have to turn around to Kevin and say, what do you think, Kevin? Kevin just puts his hand up and says, I have no idea. So we managed to get untangled, and we managed to catch all 3 fish. And that was a miracle within itself, if anybody's ever done it. And, you know, that's where you know who your friends are. Because if you don't have friends, you just push and drag up. And 1 out of 3 might come in. Either that, he lose all 3. And you say, I don't know what happened. But anyway, and I've actually been on a boat where Fiona lost a very nice rod one day out there. She went up to the bow. We were on Sloan Wakefield's boat, and she had to go underneath the anchor rope. And Fiona's a keen fisherman. She will not give up. And she got on her hands and knees. Brand new rod. She had just got built in New Zealand, and she really liked it. And she went to go underneath the anchor rope. Wave came, snapped the anchor rope out of Sloan's hand, went down, hit her arm, and the rod went to the bottom. It's still out on Argus somewhere. And but she came down with a smile, and I asked, "What happened?" She says, "My rod, it's gone." And I said, "Oh man, I felt sorry for her." And she says, "No worries, I got insurance." So she says, "I'll be local in a couple of weeks." I never knew if you get insurance on fishing rods. I guess you pay, you can get insurance on anything. But like I said, she came down with a smile, and she just picked up her on the road and kept fishing. And I think that's the way you got to take it. You know, you couldn't do nothing about it. And like I said, I would fish with Fiona anywhere. If anybody in here has ever fished with Fiona, Fiona's a great person to fish with. She's competitive. If her rod goes off, don't get in her way, because she will go right through you. You know, and her biggest thing is, and she always says it when we're fishing, she says, I don't care what happens as long as I beat Dean. As long as I beat Dean. That's all I want to do. I don't care if we win the top, I just have to beat Dean. So that says a lot about her and the way we fish in this tournament. So.
Okay, there's obviously lots more stuff that we could talk about. There's a million and one details, but I think it's about time to, you know, open it up and invite any questions from the floor. Does anybody have any questions? There's no such thing as a dumb question. You might get some dumb answers from us, but you know, ask any question you like. Yes, Nathan.
Can you talk about the rule change to do with 30 pound that's for billfish? That's different this year than, I might have missed it, you might have missed it.
No, we didn't talk about it. Neil's actually going to go through it in the rules in a minute, but basically, briefly to answer your question, 30-pound test is being introduced this year for billfish. So that'll create another little dilemma sometimes, like do you actually put out the 30 while you're chumming or at anchor, or do you wait until you see some sign of billfish, or you've given up on the chumming and you're just going trolling for billfish. And so it adds another dimension to it this year, as opposed to you're only restricted to 12.
How do you
which is why I'll go through the rules.
Yeah.
The 30 is only available for troll.
Oh, it is, okay,
For
for trolling.
billfish.
Okay.
How did you arrive at the point system for?
Well, I can speak more about that offline, but I'll give some examples and to see why it's why we come to the point spread that we have.
Gene, you had a question?
I was just saying, maybe you mentioned like the black line and all this stuff, so, you know, I mean, I know basics here, but like if you walk us through like a typical 12-pound setup? Like, do you use spinning, or do you use, the rod, the reel, what line, what leader? Like, if you're just gonna get somebody started in this, what would they put together?
Okay, what you would put together is you would probably take both spinning and conventional gear, but you would skew it more towards conventional gear. So in other words, a lever drag reel and a matching rod, something that you can put a decent amount of 12-pound test on. It doesn't have to be 1,000 yards. 600 is probably more than enough. If fish are going to take more than 600 yards, you don't want it. But what you want to do to set it up, we do fish according to IGFA rules. So you're allowed a maximum of, somebody's going to correct me if I get this wrong, but 10 feet of double line, 10 feet of leader, and 10 feet of shock leader or something, but a maximum of 20 feet overall for fishing 12-pound test. So the combination of the two, I think actually it could be 15 and 15. But if you go up to 15 feet of either the double line or leader, the other's going to have to be no more than 5 to compensate for to make a maximum. 20 feet, yeah, 20 feet maximum. So typically these days, what we would tend to do is use 5 feet of the double line and probably more like 10 to 15 feet of heavier leader, so that when you get the fish up to the boat and you get a couple of winds of that heavier leader on, you can put a little bit more pressure on them. Circle hooks, generally, that's a preference. It's not, you don't have to use circle hooks. And you would set the drag, as we mentioned before, somewhere between 4 to 6 pounds of pressure. 6 is getting kind of aggressive, but you can do it, and with no more than about 9 pounds of pressure up in the maximum position. Knots to tie, Mark mentioned spider hitch. We would generally use a spider hitch to tie the double line and not a bimini twist. A bimini twist is just that much more complicated. You can tie a spider hitch very quickly in a moving boat, and it seems to work out just as easily. There's a knot, but I don't know the proper name for it, to tie the heavier leader to the double line, but I can show it to you. Somebody called it the Florida. The what?
Bobbin knot.
Yeah, right. But I honestly don't know what names people call each of their knots, but it's just a very simple thing that cinches back on itself. Any of their, union knots come in very handy. Pretty easy knot to tie again in a moving boat, and that's really about it. On the spinning rod, you might or might not use double line. You'd probably tie a little popper lure to it, and the purpose of those is when you're chumming and you're at anchor or even drifting, and nothing much is happening, you just throw this thing out there and try to create as much commotion in the water as possible and scare up some black fins, or sometimes even yellow fins, or anything else that happens to be around. So does that give you a good sort of overview?
Yeah, Steve,
Okay.
do you use braid or mono, or what do you use for the 12-pound test?
Oh, mono.
Mono?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank
But
you.
in view of the change in IGFA rules, and this is an IGFA fish tournament, you can use a braid backing
Okay.
for both the 30 or for the 12.
But as backing, not as a main line.
That's right. You still need a top shot of a 12-pound mono or 30-pound mono.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thanks for listening. Yes, sir.
Has the rules changed of changing the boat? Because I know if you're fishing 3 days, fish 2, but the same team, the third, the same team, but different boats. Is that still in progress? You understand me?
Yep, I do. Neil, do you want to
So
take that one?
it's a 2-day tournament.
Oh, 2 days.
Yeah. It used to be 4 days.
Yes.
It's a 2-day tournament. But yes, for instance, if you had a boat breakdown or something like that, and you had to change boats, or say, for instance, you did a last-minute team and you probably could only get, say, you want to go for a charter boat, and you would go one boat into the next boat, that wouldn't make a difference for points, because there is no more high point boat award. It's all done on a team basis. Because you may decide to fish 2 different boats because of the weather too. if you have that luxury.
But you do have the option,
Yes.
is what you're saying?
Yes.
Those captains have different appointments.
Yeah. Okay, anybody, anything else? Okay, so everybody's gonna rush out and get the 12 all spooled up and get ready to fish. Cool.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to now turn it over to Neil Jones to go through the rules that are applicable to this year's ILTT. You want to pop up here and use this?
Sure.
First of all, thank you to both David and Mark for participating in this section. If we can give them a round of applause. Thank you, guys.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Neil Jones. I've been a member of the Youth Anglers Club for over 30-odd years, and I'm involved more from the technical aspects of the tournament, including the rules and rethinking the concept that we have got this year. So I believe a brief handout has been provided, and those same details are on the website. And from the conceptual basis, what we will go on to develop the rules, but it's going to be basically what you have there, just put into more legalese, which is where I come in. As we get into the details, it is a 2-day event, down from 4 to lighten it up and make it more feasible. It's going to be fished on the 23rd and 24th of June, Saturday and Sunday, with the captain's meeting the evening before on the Friday, and then the prize presentation on the Monday evening following. We have 2 line classes, as has been mentioned, 12-pound mono, and that can be used for all species, and you have a choice of 4 lines. As was mentioned, we previously just used the chameleon, which is it's a dark line, and it's has a reputation of being difficult to see. It's also not as available as what you may once was, and so we've opened up the choices of line to now you can use Maxima, Momoy, Andean suffix, which, if you think about it, you can get different colors then, which will help you with the tuna dance. And specifically, some of those brands are sold based on diameter rather than maybe the stated line test. So there's a caveat to that the line, the 12-pound line, also has to, the diameter not exceed 0.35 millimeters or 14 thousandths of an inch. But that will be on the spool if you're ordering it or that sort of thing. And then for the 30-pound test category, the mono, it's open to use any brand of line you want. And for the backing, if you choose to use that, again, you can use whatever size or diameter that you want, whatever is your strategy. So the 12-pound line, it's to be used for chumming, live bait trolling, and then 30 is to be used for only regular trolling for billfish. The exception that will be in the rules for that is that if you're there chumming, and as has happened in the past, the blue marlin swims into the chum, you're open to, or however you encounter a blue marlin, whether you're live baiting, it comes into the spring, then you're open to throw a 32. We want you to have a real chance of releasing a blue marlin during this tournament, and that's obviously a lot more realistic with any stated line 30 rather than the 12. In terms of weighed fish, each angler, and the teams are up to 4 persons, whereas previously there was a maximum of 3. Now have opened it up to teams of up to 4, and we've done that to encourage. We had some feedback saying that a lot of parents would like to fish with their children, so it's and we also have a junior component to it, uplifted points, which I'll come to, but it's to encourage parent-child combinations, 2 pairs of that in the team. Up to 4 persons in a team, and each angler can weigh up to 6 fish. So the max that could be put on a dock or put to the scale would be 24 fish.
Per day?
That's per day. And in terms of weighed fish, that max, that 6 can be a combination of tuna and wahoo, 18 pounds and over, or other species other than sharks and billfish, 12 pounds and over. And if you were to incidentally catch a game fish, a wahoo, a tuna, a barracuda, or a dolphin over 40 pounds while you're dragging it for billfish on the 30, you can weigh that, but there is that minimum weight. And any incidental fish you do catch, and that will go towards your 6 fish. So if you, for instance, you catch 6 tunas like chum, and then you catch a 7th tuna while you're trolling for billfish, and that happens to be a 150-pound yellowfin, then, and that's better from a points perspective than than the 6 tunas that you've got in the hole already. You can basically choose which 6 you're gonna weigh in. However, if that game fish that you caught on 30 was clearly only a 20-pound wahoo, you're not going to be permitted to weigh that in, but you can still keep it for whatever purpose. Release points. So it's a factor system for weighing fish, whether it be on 12 or 30. So you'll get just over a 40-pound fish on 30 is only going to give you about 100 and just over 100 points. So it's not very much, and that's why we have that minimum weight. In terms of release points, there is a cap of 10 releases per angler per day, and each of those is at 70 points for 12-pound test. There's no release points for non-billfish on 30. It just be the effort to catch a release 18-pound fish on 30 is really nothing, and so there's really no release points for that. And again, you're looking at, for tuna and wahoo, you're looking at minimum weight of 18 pounds, and for other species, the only species eligible for the release are yellowfin and blackfin tuna and wahoo. So your other game fish species such as mackerel, skipjack tuna, those are not eligible for release points. Okay, in terms of billfish releases, same standard as applies in the Triple Crown or down at the OWC. You need to have video footage of the fish at the side of the boat, on the leader, clearly showing the fish released, and that's just to keep everyone honest.
That's with a date and timestamp as well.
Date and timestamp, or the filing that's on a phone. I mean, phones I don't think do data timestamp. Just you can show us the file, the details of the file to show when it was caught on that day, and within tournament time. Also, you're talking about billfish releases. There is the fishing times. I mean, fishing times from 8 until 3:30. You have an extra hour to fight a fish, to gaff or release. So you have up until 4:30. So obviously, if your release time is showing after 4:30, I'm afraid that fish is not going to count.
Neil, picture the release. Fish has to be shown swimming away or leave the fish?
Yeah, I mean, I'll read it out then to be clear. To score a billfish release, the video footage must include sufficient continuous footage to 1, clearly identify the species, 2, show a team member, the angler, or crew touching the leader while the fish is still hooked, 3, identify the time and date of the catch, either via date stamp or via the file data, and 4, show the catch and full release of the fish. The video must be continuous with no breaks in recording and identify all of those elements. Okay? And it's the same standard that's for the Triple Crown and for the Offshore World Championship. So, if you're lucky enough to win this tournament, then you go down to Costa Rica. That's what's going to be required of you.
Just to clarify, the angler is allowed to touch leader as well, so that means he can put the rod in the rod holder to touch leader?
As long as he has a leader in his hand before he before he puts the rod down, yeah. And you wouldn't be able to pick the rod back up if the fish bolted and got away from it. That would be, you know, IGFA rules. But if the camera was running and the angler took wraps and it was identified and bust the leader off, and that's all shown on the video, that's a valid release.
You have to show the angler in the video?
No, you wouldn't need to. You need to show that the mate or the angler's got the fish on the leader. So you need to demonstrate that someone's actually touching the leader.
Continuous footage, right? No
Continuous footage, you know, the same file. Phones allow you to pause the filming and then resume. That would be fine. I mean, look, we're not a you know, we're not going to put anyone to a lie detector test here. You know, we also want good footage to share with everyone. Some of these videos will be fantastic, particularly, you know, a fish on 30, you know, has potential for being quite, if you're on it on the boat, the potential quite lively at the when it comes to wire, if you get on them very quickly. Yep.
Is there any time the captain should go in and say, well, I have a fish on 5 feet?
There will be, the lines out will be called over the radio, usually it's done by the boat hosting the Bermuda Anglers Club team, and then at that time, it's appropriate for those who are hooked up to call back in. Yeah, particularly if it's a billfish, that would be good to know because it builds excitement. I mean, usually this tournament is fished with most boats sold down the banks and that sort of thing, so we're all within radio distance of each other. If we're not, there's never been a revision in the rules whereby if you didn't communicate back that light tackle categories, and what's also possible to do in terms of game fish in a day, bearing in mind our experience from past ILTTs. You know, for 1 year, I think it was, Mark, was it, how many wahoo you guys got? It was like 19 or something like that. We got 19 wahoo on 12-pound test. So that adds up to quite a bit of points when, you know, those fish are 40-pounders and someone I think maybe even touched 50 pounds. To give you an idea with the factor system, it's a logarithmic, so a 12-pound fish caught on 12 is 100 points, 24-pound, 400, 3-to-1, 900, 48-pound, 1,600, 5-to-1, a 60-pound fish is 2,500 points. In the previous ILTT, I think our top 10 fish were all over 60 pounds. So, you know, that right alone represents 25,000 points. So, bearing that in mind, the release points for blue marlin on 12 was set at 20,000, which is equivalent to a 170-pound fish on 12 by the factor system. You know, we're not expecting teams to be dragging the 12 deliberately for billfish, but you know, if you have a whitey come up into the spread, by all means pitch the 12 to it. The risk here in June of having big fish is very real, and that's why we've said you can use whatever 30 you want, you know, to have a realistic chance of catching and releasing a blue on it. So blue on 12, 20,000, and a white marlin, spearfish, or sailfish on 12 is 2,000. So by the factor system, for a 50-pound white marlin, which is the minimum legal size if you were to boat it, and all billfish are to be released in the tournament. We don't want to see it's any billfish on the dock. It's really just, it wouldn't be good for Bermuda. So white marlin, under a 50-pound white marlin on the factor system would be 1,736 points. So there's a slight uplift there to make it a nice round number of 2,000 points, bearing in mind that the way a white marlin could strip the line off a reel quite quickly, especially if it's not a, it's not a 50-pounder, more like an 80-pounder, which is not an unusual size white to catch here. Blue marlin on 30 is 7,000 points, and by the factor system, it would be 6,944 points for a 250-pound fish caught on 30. For white marlin, spearfish, or sailfish on 30, it's a 500 point for release of those species. So if you think about it, if you went out and got 3 60-pound tuna in the course of a day, your team, and that would be 7,500 points. And another team spent the whole day and had one blue marlin to show for it on 30, well, they would have 7,000 points. You have to say, we're trying to weigh up the angling achievement. Having caught both, I'd still say the blue marlin is probably the greater angling achievement for that. And so, but you're very much, if you get the fish fast, you very much could have the opportunity to get one or more other fish, or change gears and go for some tuna or wahoo in the chum, because you may feel that lightning's not going to strike twice that day. So any questions to do with the release points? Okay. Junior anglers. We really want to encourage juniors to be involved with the tournament this year. And to do that, we're giving the junior anglers will have their points uplifted by 20%. So that you understand who a junior is. It's someone who is still 16 at the time of the tournament, and their 17th birthday falls after the 24th of June. So in other words, if the junior's birthday is on the 25th of June of this year, they're still a junior, their 17th birthday. So that, that if you've got some skilled juniors out there, you think about some of the fish in previous tournaments that have been caught by juniors, like Estes' son, caught that big blue marlin, and what was it, big wahoo caught in the wahoo tournament. It was an 82-pound wahoo caught by a junior. Some very skilled juniors out there, and so we like to see them involved to help encourage the next generation of anglers in Bermuda.
Can't we just say they have to catch it themselves, they can't have help?
No.
I mean, yes, this is an IGFA rule tournament, so the junior has to hook the fish, fight the fish, and no assistance can be rendered that would violate the IGFA rules.
That's about it. On one occasion, fishing, and Vince Kent caught 129 points. Blue shark. Good job. I'm going to tell you all that. 2 sharks came to the chunk, and they were sucking it. And Vince said, I should put the fairly in. I said, yes. So he did. The shark come around the bait, with plenty of slack in the water. The shark got to this point, Bill Fox, at the gap. Is that why they
They have something down in the Key. It used to be the Key West tournament. These have what's called Key West release, which was you're fishing from a long center console, and you have you have to have all your the leader and double line off the reel, and they would throw the bait in the water of the bow and go past the fish, go past the boat, and then the blackfin tuna would grab it at the stern, and the bait would reach over straight away and grab the leader and bust the hook out, and that's the release. You know, it's in the spirit of fishing, and if you know, while it's legitimate, you know, this is not a money tournament. It's all about the honor and bragging rights, and but you have to abide by the rules. Okay.
The reason why I asked for it, I don't know if you
Yeah.
a gentleman in Hawaii, out of Marlin and Full News.
Yeah, and I think the IGFA expects there to be a fight.
Okay.
And that's the spirit. That's the spirit of fishing and angling. So in terms of prizes, we've the prizes now are because we're a 2-day tournament. It's in terms of top team, you have first, second, and third. Top angler, first, second, and third. Top lady angler, top junior angler. We have the Duval High Point Fish Award. This is a customary award for angling, recognizing angling excellence, and it would be possible for Billfish Release to claim it this year. The next prize is the top number of released fish by a team. This is overall fish released, and if there was a tie, then it would go to the team with the most number of releases on the first day, and if it was still equal after that, then it would go to the team with the more yellowfin releases. And then we have the award for top number of billfish released by a team. And again, if they're tied, then it's first in time will win the award. And then the way station is going to be the Ars Bay Park, and in terms of times, it's lines in at 8 o'clock, lines out at 3:30 with the extra hour, and boats have to be in sight of the way station at Ars Bay Park by 6:30. You're able to use your own boat or a charter boat. And this is a fish at your own risk tournament because we only have the one weekend, and you just have to decide. There'll be no weather committee. It's go at your own risk. And as a result of that, while we encourage you to sign up early, get your teams together. That way you can get yourselves organized, because it is a fair bit of gear to get sorted. If you did want to wait to see what the weather forecast is earlier in that week, or even right up to last minute, then we will accept entries on that basis. And lastly, in terms of what's it going to cost, it's $500 per angler. However, if we get 6 more teams signed up, then the junior angler fee will be reduced to $400. And if we get 12 or more teams signed up, then everyone's fee will be reduced to $400. And that $100 rebate, if we get those 12 more teams, then anglers have the option of donating that to the junior tournament, which is what proceeds from the ILTT go towards supporting each year. Fish that tournament, it's a great event, and it's been building and building over the years, and we'd like to see even more involved with that, and again to build up the next crop of junior anglers on this island.
Well, you know that the International Game Fishing Association has a junior tournament.
Correct, and
I think the policy is 2 people from the junior tournament of the country in other form.
These are, I mean, what I have here is actually really not much more in detail than what's on that outline, but I'm just saying that, just about to say that the website is up, it's ILTTbermuda.com. You can register for the tournament on that. We don't have a payment facility there, but once you've registered, then we'll have the details and contact you for the payment. The complete version of the rules will be going up there shortly. There's other information on that site, and it also has links in through to our very generous and kind sponsors, Christen's, and to IFP, and Gillian Kirst is here from IFP, which is a financial planning advisors. But you know, during the course of the rest of the evening, if there's no further questions now, just please ask any of us about the tournament, or reach out to us through the website or through our Gmail address to ask us anything you may have to need to know about the tournament. Yep.
Do you have to be an IGFA member to qualify to go to the Offshore World?
Since IGFA has separated itself and Bonnier Corporation is now running the OWC, you don't have to be a member, to my knowledge.
And what?
Review. Does two constitute a team?
Yep.
As long as we got cameras and all that type of stuff.
Sorry, speak up, Elton.
As long as we got video footage.
I mean, yes. I mean, you know, I mean, for the tuna and the wahoo releases, we don't need video footage of that. It's only for the billfish, just simply by virtue of the points involved. And also, you know, because everyone else wants to see the catch too. You know, just
we try to videotape. We get too excited, so forget.